Another Fox News alert now, because the Senate's going to try yet again in a matter of moments to try and save most of the Patriot Act. They will try and move forward with a bill that would reinstate some of the expired NSA surveillance powers. This after Kentucky Senator Rand Paul proved to be a success in changing the law so far. Ambassador James Woolsey, the former CIA director, chairman for the Foundation of the Defense of Democracy, is my guest now in Washington. And, sir, welcome back to America's Newsroom, and good morning.
Good to be with you, Bill.
Essentially, if this goes forward, they still collect the phone data, but it's a question of whether or not the government holds it or the phone company holds it. Is that big of a deal?
There's more difference than that. At least one big phone company has already told the government that it is not going to cooperate, not going to retain the records. And since the phone companies don't have to under this revised bill, there may be no retention of records. It's up to the phone companies. Bill, it's important for people to realize that the government has been looking at the outside of the envelope, has the right to look at the outside of the envelope in a first-class letter, addressee, person who wrote it, the time it was sent for over three-quarters of a century, back into the 40s and 50s. And what has happened after 9/11 is that the government utilized that authority to do the same thing with, let's say, emails. They are not reading your emails. They are not looking into the substance. They are only being able to keep track of who sent it, who received it, and when this happened. And that has been very useful to them in finding patterns of behavior in some of the terrorist groups, and that provision is in there.
Because Senator Paul and others would argue that there's no proof of one case being stopped. Is that true or not?
That you aren't trying to stop one case. You're trying to find a pattern that you can utilize so that if someone blows himself up, you can look and see who he was sending emails back and forth with and see if somebody else might have been part of that, let's say, conspiracy.
So you
it doesn't
support,
work.
You support this program, and you want it to stay
yes.
as
It's effectively been abolished. It's not going to work with the telephone companies being custodians of the data.
You think the senators are aware of that? And if so, how does that affect the outcome?
I don't know. All they had to do is read the papers this morning and see that at least one major telephone company is not going to cooperate, and there's no reason for any of the others to. And if they do cooperate, it might be for, a week, a month, whatever they want.
So are you suggesting this program is going to die today? Or now?
It is effectively dying. Yes, I think that's right.
And from an intelligence standpoint, what do you believe the effect of that is then?
I think the effect is that the people who support destroying this program when there is another terrorist attack, and if they have the guts to sit down and meet with the families of the people who've been killed, they may regret this vote.
Well, here is Rand Paul with us yesterday. He's declaring victory. Listen.
I actually want more collection of records on terrorists. I just want less collection of innocent Americans. I think we sometimes get distracted by collecting so many records of innocent Americans that we're not spending enough time actually following the potential jihadists in our country.
I mean, I don't know what your view on that is, but he says go chase the bad guys, don't chase everyday Americans. He says go out and hire 1,000 more FBI agents. That'll take care of the problem, not what we're doing right now. And down the road, we're going to regret this.
Yeah, that's not a sensible approach. In order to get any advantage out of patterns of communication between terrorists or people on the edge of terrorist groups and the like, one has to be able to do the metadata, look at just the outside of the envelope, parallel to a first-class letter. And if you can't do that, even though the constitutional law on it is clear that it's all right, even though the court decisions are clear that it's all right, if you can't do that, you lose a great deal of the ability to follow up when something terrible happens and to see who might have been responsible and to pursue things. By talking about this the way they do, a lot of people try to give the impression that the government has been reading your emails. That is not true.
What about your phone calls?
The government has been looking at the outside. The phone records, same way. It's a little more complicated because they can't use some aspects of cell phones which have to do with the position you're. But by the way, Amazon knows a lot more about your interests than the federal government. If you bought a Tom Clancy novel, they'll right away send you something saying, hey, here's the new David Ignatius spy novel. Well, you probably want to read that because you like spy novels, right? They're far more into understanding what your tastes are like and how to market to you and the like than the federal government.
I've got to run well out of time. Very important topic. 15 seconds or less. What's the effect of the outcome now? What do you believe happens?
I think it will weaken us in trying to deal with terrorism, and people who support this will someday rue the day that they did.